Waiting to feel motivated is a trap because you only feel motivated after you start moving. There's also a concept that James Clear talks about, motion versus action. And motion is planning. Motion is research, organizing, thinking. Action is what actually produces results.
Welcome to Success Spectrum Podcast, where new entrepreneurs break free from limiting beliefs, build unshakable financial confidence, and step boldly into the life and business they were meant to create.
You know what you want. You've probably written it down. You think about it on your walk, when you're driving. You think about it before you go to sleep. So the question is, why hasn't it happened yet? See, there's a gap between knowing and doing. And we're going to break it down and talk about why that gap is the only thing standing between where you are and the second half of the year you say you want. Most people think the problem is strategy. It almost never is. You have the information. You know you need to send the post. You need to knock that door, make the phone call. You know you need to send that email. You know what you need to do. The information is not what's missing. What's missing is your first move. The execution gap is that quiet space between knowing and doing. And that's where a lot of goals go to die. People think they're lazy. They need to care more. They need to put more effort in. That's not the issue. The issue is you're waiting. You're waiting for all the stars to align. You're waiting to feel ready. You're waiting for the fear to disappear. The fear isn't going anywhere. The stars are not going to align. The longer you wait, the heavier the task becomes. If you did the audit from last episode, you know what your number one priority is. This episode is going to help you to make sure you actually hit it. So many people get this backwards, and you probably heard me talk about this before if you've been listening to these episodes. Motivation does not come before action. Action comes before motivation. Yeah, sure. Sometimes you might feel some level of motivation and then you can take action because you listen to certain videos online or whatever the case might be. But the vast majority of times you need to take action before motivation comes. You're not going to sit there and think about getting fit or getting healthy and going to the gym and feel motivated to go really. You have to go. And as you start going, you're going to start seeing some results and you're going to feel motivated to continue going. It doesn't necessarily happen when you're sitting at home doing your regular routine. Okay, I'm motivated today. I'm going to go to the gym. If you rely on motivation alone, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. If you rely on motivation alone, you are going to continue sitting there until all the stars do align. And it's not going to happen. People think that's the science. You feel motivated, you take action. But the science is actually the opposite of that. You take action, and that is what creates motivation. The way I like to say it is motion or movement creates energy. Once you move, then the energy comes in. Then you feel motivated to continue moving. Waiting to feel motivated is a trap because you only feel motivated after you start moving. There's also a concept that James Clear talks about, motion versus action. And motion is planning. Motion is research, organizing, thinking. Action is what actually produces results. And I like to say it a different way. I say the busy work. We're all busy in this world. But how much of us are really productive? How many of us are really productive? We stay busy doing the little things that don't necessarily move the needle. But the productivity, the productive tasks, that's what we should be doing, but we avoid it consciously or subconsciously because we're afraid of doing it, or because we don't think we know how to do it, or we don't think it's going to work. Whatever reason, but we stay busy in motion, but we're not necessarily productive taking the actions necessary. You can stay in motion for years. You can stay busy for years and never really start. That's the execution gap. That's where it lives. It lives in motion. It lives in the busy work. Let me give you some examples of how high performers really get started. Ryan Reynolds, he bought Mint Mobile, I believe it was in 2019, and it was small. And the company was struggling. It was a prepaid wireless company, and he didn't have a telecom background, right? Ryan Reynolds, comedy actor. He didn't have a master plan. He used his existing skills, comedy and content. And he started to post ads online, funny ads that would, of course, attract attention and get people to go purchase the phone or whatever the case is. He started ugly. He leaned into what he had and sold Mint Mobile in 2024, 5 years later, for $1.35 billion. Jeff Bezos, he left his job on Wall Street to start an online bookstore. He used something that he called the regret minimization framework. He looked at it and he said, would I regret not doing this, starting this bookstore online by the time I'm 80? If I don't do it, will I regret it? The answer, of course, was yes. And so he didn't wait for certainty. He didn't wait for all the stars to align. He took action, he took the steps, and he started what we now know as Amazon. He used a simple framework to get started, and it's the same math that's available to us. Will you regret it if you don't start today? 5 years, 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, will you regret not doing it? If the answer is yes, you can utilize this framework and take action. The pattern across high performers is the same. They don't wait to feel ready. They start, often badly. And then once they start, they let the doing teach them. They let the action teach them. And once they start learning from there, they go to a whole nother level. That's what planning could never do.
Man, what's the deal? I want to shout my boy out, Kadeem McLean, for just going over the flight assessment with me. Very knowledgeable, very aware. Just to give you like a quick example, as fluent as he was explaining the information, I not doubted myself, but I questioned, would I be able to explain the same information if I was in his shoes? Not to say that I wouldn't get my best foot forward, but just the way that he explained the information, thorough and was very detailed and accommodating, it just made me feel comfortable even to give more information maybe than even that was needed. But that's just how comfortable that he made me. You want to work with someone that will make you feel comfortable so that they will be able to extract everything out of you, even things that may pop up as far as improv, right? Just right on the spot. So look no further than Kadeem McLean. He gonna get you together. Peace.
Here's the thing about the execution gap. It requires a smaller move than what you've been thinking. A smaller move than what you've been trying to do. There's research from a psychologist named Peter Gollwitzer, hopefully I said that name right, on something called implementation intentions. And it's a fancy name for a simple idea, if-then planning. And what it says is, when this happens, I'm going to do this. As an example, 7 p.m. after dinner tomorrow night, I am going to send that email. That's it. Very simple, right? Specificity is the trick. Once you specify, then it's more likely to happen. They did an analysis across 100 studies and found that this kind of planning significantly increases follow through compared to generic, regular, general goal setting. Goals, and it makes it look like goal setting is really just wish setting. You wish this would happen and you hope the stars align to make it happen. And specificity with this if-then framework is what will actually make it happen, more than likely. Because now you know, okay, once I sit down after dinner, 7 p.m., I am going to send this email. Come hell or high water, it's going to happen. Simple. So here's what I really want to give you here. We're going to break this down into 3 parts. Shrink it. Though I always like to say, you don't eat an elephant in one bite. You eat an elephant bite by bite. It's not all at once, right? So you shrink it down, break it down to the ridiculous, the smallest numbers that you can think of. Break it down. Take your one priority from the audit and identify the smallest possible version of the first move. Don't worry about the whole project. Just worry about that first 15 minutes. What needs to get done? So you shrink it. Number 2, you schedule it. Pick the day, pick the time, pick the location. If you're not able to tell me when and where, then you probably haven't planned it. You're just wishing for it. And start ugly. The first attempt is likely not going to be so great, but that's the point of it. It's your first draft. It's your 1.0 version. Version 2 is when we can worry about making it nice and worry about the quality. But before version 2, we need to get going. We need to get started. Who cares if it looks ugly? Let's get this thing out there.
What if shopping could earn you cash instead of just costing you? You've been stuck in the cycle, tap, swipe, spend, watching your paycheck just disappear. But one day, after you stumbled onto this app called Rakuten, you ask yourself, why am I paying full price when I don't have to? But then you think, maybe it's just another gift. Then one of your friends tell you about this app called Rakuten, who makes them money and gives them cash back and rewards for thousands of stores every time they make a purchase that they were made anyway. You try it once, you discover hidden deals, compare prices, and you start winning. Shopping becomes a strategy. Every tap pays you back, and you still get what you want. You share Rakuten with your friends, watch your income grow, and become more financially confident. Download the Rakuten app today and keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket.
So in the last episode, we talked about the results, we talked about the reason, we talked about the reset, and we talked about that accountability gap. Today, we talked about another gap, which is the gap between planning and doing. We can sit there and plan all day. Listen, I'm an introvert. I am a planner. I will sit here and I will plan for weeks, months, but I won't take any action on some things. But I've been kicking myself in the gear to say, no, you know what? We need to take action on some things. So before you move, pick one thing, the smallest first move of your biggest priority, the thing that's been on your mind that you know you've got to get done, and put it in your calendar this week. Tell that same accountability partner, the same person from last week's episode, the accountability gap. You have to have an accountability partner. Tell them what you're planning to do and make sure they hold you accountable to it. But it's not on them if you don't do it. It's on you if you don't do it. Let's get that clear. And then do it ugly. Done is better than planned. And to give you an example, we just reached 100 episodes, and I appreciate every single one of you for listening. If you made a comment, if you liked, if you shared it with somebody else, I appreciate you very much. This 100th episode would not have happened if I didn't follow this framework of just doing it anyway. This is the exact pattern that led to this episode being released, episode 100. So start before you're ready and improve as you go. Don't wait. The people who finish this year strong aren't going to be the ones who had the best plan. They're going to be the ones who took action. They let that action give them feedback, and they iterated as they went. Their version 1 maybe was ugly. Version 2 might still be ugly. Version 3, okay, we're getting better. But they allowed that action to give them feedback. They took the feedback, they made the adjustments, and they continued moving. Pick a launch date. Stop waiting for the right move. Stop waiting for the fear to dissipate, because it's not going anywhere. They made the move. Those are the people who are going to have the best second half of this year. So I'm going to ask this again. What is that smallest version of your first move? And what day this week are you going to do it? If you know what you want and you're tired of just being in motion or just being busy, the Apex Blueprint is made exactly for this. We map out your priorities. We map out your next move. We map out your execution plan so you can stop planning and start doing. If you want your blueprint, your personal playbook, go to apexaffiliation.com/blueprint. And one final takeaway for you is you don't need to feel ready. You need to start. Once you start, motivation shows up. Motivation will show up after you start. So get going, get moving, take that first step. 100 episodes. I appreciate every single one of you. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and come back next week. And again, when you were listening to this episode, somebody came to mind at some part of this episode. Send whoever that person is the episode. Send them a clip of the episode. Because the more you listen, the more you come back, the more the numbers go up, is the more I iterate and the better I get with these videos, and the more I can bring you content that you're looking for. All right? Success is not a destination. It is a spectrum. So keep evolving. Kadeem here, and I'll see you on the next one.